Hey everyone, welcome to the Daley Doodle on YouTube. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we'll be uploading videos focusing on business, insight, and how-tos for creative people. My name's Dale, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about how you can capitalize on a piece of content you put out there that ends up going viral. Okay, so before we go into some takeaways from this video, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory about a time where a piece of content I created on my website went viral, and subsequently I didn't have the measures in place to capitalize on that moment where lots of people were hitting my site. So for a bit of backstory, back in 2006, I created a post called, forgive me for the terrible puns here, but I created a post called Batman vs Superman. I know, it's terrible, right? And it was all about Batman vs Superman arguing staying in the EU or leaving the EU. Now, at the time, the new Batman-Superman movie had just come out and everyone was talking about Brexit. So it was kind of not surprising, really, that those two things coming together with all the search traffic they were getting managed to elevate my comic, which I spent about 2 months on altogether, to a stage where at one point I had over 30,000 views, near 10,000 Facebook likes, and thousands of shares. Now, inevitably, a piece of content that goes viral comes and goes, and unfortunately, I didn't put the measures in place to capitalize on all that traffic that was hitting my site. So if I was to go back and do this differently, what would I do? Well, number one, I would think about what do I want people to do when they hit my site? And it's a classic thing that a lot of people don't think about, is they'll create something, they'll create a cool piece of content and they'll put it out there, but then they're not thinking beyond that on step 2, 3, and 4. So they're not thinking, how do I pull this person into my universe, whether that be their website, whether that be a YouTube channel, whatever that is, and they're not thinking about, what do I want this person to do next? Do I want them to subscribe to my email newsletter? Do I want them to purchase some merch in my shop? And without answering those questions, it's very difficult then to tailor or kind of guide traffic to your site, to places that you want them to go. And that's something that I've kind of learned the hard way is, it's one thing to get people to your site and read or engage with your piece of content, but after that, generally, they'll leave and they'll just never kind of hear of you again, and they'll just never even think of you. So you have to find a way to pull them into your universe, which brings me on then to step 2, and that's collecting email. So if you don't have a mailing list, the first thing you should do is go and subscribe to mailing list software. Now, MailChimp is a great start. It's well known. They've got some great kind of UX UI. If you don't have any tech coding skills, the UI is very good, and it's a very good starting point for you to go. Obviously when you hit 2,000 subscribers, then you'll have to upgrade. But to begin with, it's great. And you have to then think about a way of getting people to subscribe to that newsletter. So a number of different ways of doing this. A lot of websites these days are trying the mid-scroll pop-up, where you land on a page, you'll scroll down for a little bit, and then a pop-up will come, usually with some kind of comical, funny, entertaining line that tries to get you to subscribe. There are lots of plugins to do this. If you use WordPress, for example, there are lots of different plugins you can use. You can hook up to MailChimp and then they will create and generate these pop-ups for you. Some people like the good old-fashioned way. They just like to post it in the footer or the header. I would advise, if you've got a long piece of content, because when I create this comic, it kind of went, you had to scroll for a long time because there was a lot of information. And if you have a newsletter subscription right at the bottom, you're already losing a good 80-90% of the traffic by the time you've hit the bottom. So I would highly recommend, it doesn't have to be right at the top, but I would recommend thinking about ways that you introduce this opportunity to sign up for more content like this. Hey, did you like what you read? Please sign up to my mailing list and I will send you all these great things to your inbox before they go live on my site. Something like that can work. So that's number 2 then, kind of acquiring the mailing list, because obviously if you're not doing, generally, if you've got a small blog or you're just starting out, you're not going to be putting any money into paid advertising, hence you won't be doing any Facebook retargeting or something like that. So getting their email is key here. And then number 3 then, I would say, is kind of going further than that and using that traffic on your site to monitor user behavior and also think about what else can I get from these users. Now, this is where I'm going to introduce Hotjar. So Hotjar is a great tool which brings together lots of different analytical on-site tools that you can use to monitor what traffic is doing on your website, and also engage with them in some way. So one of the Hotjar analytics tools that I used that was very successful for me was a pop-up questionnaire where people would scroll a little way down the piece of content that had gone viral, and it would just pop up and say, if you liked what you read, what else would you like me to do? And it's just a simple kind of open answer question. And I had, a small percentage of people get back to me, but it was really good insight into what other things people would like me to create and what other things they would like to learn. Hotjar also gives you heat maps. It also gives you, click rates and things like that. So it just shows what users are doing on your website, and from that you can get a good idea of whether the UI on your website is working well, or whether people are just confused and they're not understanding where they're going. Looking back, I wish I'd implemented all these things earlier. I think I would have got a lot more from that rush of traffic that hit my website that unfortunately left and didn't do anything else. But hopefully now you don't make the same mistakes that I did. Lay these foundations in place so that if you do produce a piece of content that does go viral, you are able to capitalize on it and start growing your audience at a much bigger rate than what you would be doing before. So to sum up the takeaways from this, number one, think about what you want your users to do. Lay out a path for them and guide them very easily on the website to whatever you want those users, whatever behavior you want those users to replicate. Two, acquire their email. This is a great way to bring those people into your universe and be able to get into their inbox directly and give them more of what they want. And finally then, number three is use something like Hotjar to analyze the traffic on your website and try and get more from the traffic as well. Analyzing where they're dropping off on the page, thinking about asking them to sign up for questionnaires, and just getting as much information as you can so that can then help tailor the content for future pieces that you do. And if you do all those things and one of your pieces does go viral, you should be able to grow an audience at a much quicker rate.